Ruth is here. We're going to be talking about Bill 168.
That's right.
This is something that we should all pay attention to. It's going to be interesting information on that.
La, la, la. Hey, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to the show. We're back with a great educational piece. If you haven't heard about Bill 168, it's something you need to educate yourself with. Obviously, we don't have all the time to discuss all the details of it, so we'll certainly give you some great resources that are available out there for you. It's actually amendments to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. We're joined by Ruth Sirman from CanMediate International. Welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Good to be back.
So, as I said, not a lot of time. So, briefly, how would you describe, what is Bill 168 exactly?
Bill 168 is a piece of legislation that passed in the Ontario Parliament on the 15th of December, comes into effect on 15th of June 2010, so next week.
Okay.
And basically provides a series of expectations for employers and protections for employees around workplace violence, workplace harassment, domestic violence, and working to try and create safer workplaces for employees.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about it in a little bit more specific detail. Maybe we'll start with from the employer's point of view. What are the implications of this?
Well, for an employer, if you've got employees, you are now expected to have policies in place and procedures in place to ensure that employees are safe at work. And if you go to the Ministry of Labour website, they have all kinds of resources. I actually brought one of them with me. It's called Developing Workplace Violence and Harassment Programs. It's about 50 pages long. There's another one called a toolbox that actually gives you samples of things that you can use. But there are specific policies, and from our perspective, we're not a legal firm. We don't get into, what do you have to do to be compliant with the legislation, because that's all very carefully laid out on the Ministry of Labour website. So for any employer who hasn't checked that out yet, you kind of want to get going, because it may take you a week or more to get this together.
I guess they're forcing employers. You've got to put these standards in place, and you have to make them available for the employees to read. Is that correct?
And there is an expectation that employees will be trained on this, on the policies and procedures, and that there will be follow-up to ensure that they're working, and that if situations change, the policies are adjusted. So there's a very clear set of expectations on what employers need to do in order to be compliant.
Okay.
From my perspective as a mediator, we do a lot of work with toxic organizations, the kind of organizations that typically, you could find people needing Bill 168.
Okay.
From my perspective, I'm interested in helping organizations create healthy work environments where the chances that you're going to run afoul of the Bill 168 provisions and need the procedures and the policies and so on are minimized. So from that perspective, that's why we're doing the courses on the June 21st to the 25th on creating healthy workplaces and so on.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because you, as Derek said at the beginning, you're one of those resources where people can go to you and find out more and learn more about it. In this workshop on the 21st to the 25th, what specifically, is it geared more for the employer, for the employee? What will people take away from it?
Okay. Both, actually, because ultimately what we're talking about is how can you create a working environment in which the risks of harassment are minimized, the risks of conflict getting out of hand to the point where it goes to grievance. Exactly. But in congruence with Bill 168, because I support the provisions of it, and I've done a lot of work in other organizations where they have this kind of legislation, and it does help. It doesn't mean we're trying to create workplaces where you can't tell a joke or can't give somebody a hug, or that kind of thing. It's about know your audience. It's about recognizing the signs when somebody's uncomfortable with something that they're doing. So maybe I tell a joke and Derek thinks it's hilarious, and you're sitting there with that kind of
look
I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe you just said that. So I pick up on the look and go, gee, TL, I'm so sorry, I think I've offended you. What's the chances you're going to file a complaint against me?
Right.
As long as I don't do it again. Now, if I apologize today and came back and told the same kind of joke again tomorrow, then the apology becomes a bit of a smokescreen. So in that context, in the course of that 5-day program, it's the Power to Resolve program which includes the I'm OK course, which we've talked about before. I'm OK,
Right.
it's everybody else who needs help.
Yeah.
It includes the managing difficult situations and people you find challenging. What do you do with those people who push your buttons? From discord to dialogue, how do you have those tough conversations where managers often run into trouble? You need to counsel someone on their job performance. You need to fire somebody. You need to
Right.
tell your teenager you don't think that their choice of friends is necessarily what it could be. So how do you have those tough conversations? And then the other modules are organizational conflict 911. What do you find when you put a whole group of people together in one place, ask them to function as an organization, and inevitably you end up with some conflict. So there's specific things around groups of people that we want to talk about. And then the fifth one is discover your RQ, your resolution quotient. What do you bring to the table? What's your default conflict blueprint, and how, because everybody else in the organization has one too, how does that play out when you bring all these people together, add policies, procedures, mandates, legislation, and say to people, okay, now go make it work?
What a great program you put in place, Ruth. If somebody watching right now and is interested, they want to sign up, what's the best way to do it?
They'll have the website on the screen, www.canmediate.com. The other thing we put on the website just specifically for this type of process is a workplace atmosphere audit, which you can download, fill in, send back to us, and we'll compile the results. The instructions are all on it, so check out a homepage on canmediate.com, and it should all be there.
Terrific.
And hopefully we can help, because I firmly believe that people need they need to be able to be comfortable to go to work.
Agreed, 100%. Ruth, thank you so much for sharing the information. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to have you back again for another great education. You want to find out more information, as she said, visit canmediate.com. Thanks very much, Ruth. That was great.